Welcome, moviegoers. How are we doing? Good, good. Do you have your ticket? All right, what do we have here? Real Swell. Good choice. You're going to be in Auditorium 51. It's straight ahead and to the left. Enjoy. Daredevil Born Again, Episode 4. Matt is visiting the coroner, looking over Hector Ayala's body. And he is speaking with the coroner, asking him about the ballistics, asking him about the bullet, what kind it was, what kind of exit wound Hector had, and he also asked about the casing, trying to collect any information and evidence to help direct him toward who may have murdered him. And it turns out that the bullet casing wasn't recovered. It was a through and through, and the CSI didn't find the bullet casing. And they didn't look, or what they did, or the area where they did look, they weren't able to find it. So Matt decides that he's going to go off on an adventure himself to see if he can find it. As he's leaving, Hector's niece comes up to the coroner's office as well. She wants to see Hector. She is probably 12 or 13, and rightfully so distraught. She's in tears, very upset, very sad, and wants some answers. She wants to know what happened. She wants to know how this happened. And she wants Matt to tell her that it was the police who did it. She wants Matt to just be honest with her that he went after these cops. He got off on what he was charged with, and the cops decided he couldn't live anymore so that they can continue on with the status quo. She just wanted someone to say it. And of course, Matt implies it in his conversation with her, but he doesn't flat out say that's what he also believes. Well, he reassures her that whoever killed her uncle, someone's going to find him. And he repeats that a couple of times. As he's leaving the coroner's office, he runs into the officer whose partner it was who Hector threw in front of the train. And he kind of gets him riled up so that he can get him to speak on Hector's death. And the officer says to Matt, I don't know what happened to that guy. I wasn't a part of it. And Matt determines that he's actually telling the truth. He wasn't a part of the assassination of White Tiger or Hector Ayala. It's later that evening when Matt decides that he's going to go down to that alley where Hector was shot and try to find this bullet casing. And he is just standing in the spot where Hector was shot, trying to get a gauge for where it could have possibly gone if it couldn't be retrieved. So he notices a piece of debris get shuffled around by a bike that's driving by, and he hears the rolling of this piece of debris. So he knocks over one of those airline alcohol bottles, and he lets it roll. He just lets gravity take course. And he follows that sound to a gutter. And in that gutter, he finds that bullet casing. On that bullet casing, he notices something, and it's engraved. Once we cut away from that, we are met with one of Fisk's aides, Daniel. He is at a party with BB, actually, the street reporter, and another friend of hers. And they're at this club, and it's probably 3 or 4 in the morning. They are drinking, partying, having a good time, and he's actually trying to get home because he needs to get some sleep because the schedule that Fisk has him on is very rigid. So he is pleading with BB and this her friend that he's got to go home. He can't be out drinking too much. He can't have another drink. And they go back and forth about him working too hard and Fisk asking him to do too much. And in his stupor, he begins to talk about Fisk's policies and the things that Wilson wants to do. One of those things is to clean up one of the ports in New York. It is in need of development. Fisk wants to organize a process and a path to getting this port built up, bringing in commerce to this port and increasing the standard of living for this port as well. He mentioned something about the union and how Fisk is working with them to kind of get them out of the way so that they can move forward with this. Not realizing he's talking to BB, not his friend, but also a reporter. While he is meeting with Fisk, Daniel, Sheila, his other aide, and Buck are standing at the port. This is the next day, and we get more of Wilson's plan for this port and why it's so important to him that it gets reconstructed. Well, Sheila tries to get Wilson to understand that he can't just say, let's rebuild this port, and that's going to happen. He can't speak things into existence. There's a lot of red tape that requires him to ask permission, and then get permission to ask permission again. So there are all these steps, all these hoops he has to jump through before he can even begin to want to do any work on this port. He concedes that Sheila's right, and whatever steps he needs to take, he will, because he does want to be a good mayor. As that conversation's ending, Buck, and Buck is kind of a henchman type character. He has his ear on the street. He is kind of Vanessa's right hand as still a conduit to the empire of Kingpin. And he says to Wilson, listen, this is probably a great idea, but we still have thugs and gangs and killers and other families running around trying to gain power. And he repeats something that Vanessa says in a previous episode, and that is, at some point either there's going to be one left standing who's going to want all of the power, or they're all going to kill each other. So we need to handle that before we begin this project. All the while, Wilson and Vanessa are still attending therapy. We learn that Vanessa took on another lover while Wilson was away. And that is a very big part of the rift in their marriage on Wilson's side, from Wilson's perspective. He found out and he's not happy about it. Vanessa says to her husband and the therapist that while Wilson was gone, she felt betrayed, alone, and crushed. And those feelings she inherited from how her mother felt when her father would leave off on business. He would be gone for weeks. And Vanessa's mother felt crushed in those moments. And Vanessa didn't want to feel that. So she took ownership of herself and went out to fulfill whatever that emptiness was. The therapist asks Wilson what he thinks of that and how he has handled it. And he says that he spoke with Adam and that he made it clear to Adam how important Vanessa was to him and how important his marriage was. Vanessa asks a leading question. Is that all? Was it just a conversation? I know that you have more direct methods. Is that all you did was talk to him? And Wilson assures her that yes, all we did was talk, but it was very direct. And I did tell him that whatever is going on between the two of you is over. And the therapist, satisfied with that answer, ends the session. As the couple is leaving, she asks Vanessa to stay back to ask her a question alone. And the question that she asks is, does Vanessa feel safe in her marriage? And Vanessa says that Wilson is capable of a lot of things, but hurting me isn't one of them. And then she leaves, and Wilson and Vanessa, they go back home. Matt gets a call from one of his partners at the law firm where he works, and she asks him to go meet up with a potential client, one who she owes a favor to, in fact. When he gets to the precinct to speak with this client, he's a very obnoxious, very loud, very petulant older man, actually. He teases Matt about being blind. He has several jokes about justice and how it's blind. And he is being charged with petty larceny. He was caught stealing some snack foods from a bodega. And it turns out that this isn't the first time he's been caught stealing. It's not the second, third, or fourth. He's got a rap sheet that's 20 pages long, but all petty crimes: stealing, larceny, some vandalism. But as he speaks with Matt, he asks Matt for probation, to get him probation, because he doesn't want to sit in jail. Not a single day does he want to be in jail. And Matt goes through all of the reasons why probation is probably not going to be on the table. He is a repeat offender. Not only is he a repeat offender, but even when leniency is granted to him, he takes advantage of that, misses court dates, and therefore shouldn't be expecting more leniency. But he is adamant that he does not want to go to jail. He wants probation, and that's the end of it. So Matt goes and talks to the DA, and he kind of has this conversation. They have a working relationship. So they talk, they share some quips, flirt back and forth, and he gets her down to 10 days. She was going to say 35. He asked for 20. They go back and forth. They settle on 10. In fact, 10 minus however many days he's already been in jail. So really it was just 3. He takes that back to Leroy, is the client's name, and Leroy doesn't like that. He doesn't want to be in jail, period. And he goes into how this system creates this perpetual incarceration of him, where all he wants is to not be hungry. So he steals. All he wants is to not have to eat out of the garbage. So he steals. He trespasses. He commits all of these petty crimes, but just in a sense of survival. He mentions that the system is going to spend much more money putting him in jail than it would take to just feed him. And Matt kind of sees where he's coming from, but he doesn't get him less days in jail. He still has to go to jail. But it's just something for Matt to ponder as he continues on looking at the city that he once looked over. he is still fighting this urge to get back out there. Well, now he needs to continue his investigation of this bullet. The engraving that he found on the casing was a skull. So he goes to visit Frank, and the two of them have the best scene in this episode. It's just the two of them in this bunker that Frank now resides, and they talk about guilt, they talk about pain, they talk about forgiveness, they talk about permission. Frank sees that Matt is upset. He's angry, he's sad, he feels guilty, and he wants to do something about it. He sees that in Matt because that's literally who he is. And he calls Matt out. He says, "You didn't come here because you care about who killed Hector. You're mad and you want justice. You want revenge for Foggy. This is about Foggy, isn't it?" And Matt starts crying, tries to argue with Frank that no, this isn't about Matt. I just need to find out who killed Hector. This isn't about Daredevil. I just need to know who killed Hector. Do you know anything about this bullet? Why does this bullet have your skull on it? And Frank's not having it. Frank is saying, "You're a coward for not facing this feeling. You're a coward for not getting back out there. You're a coward for coming to me, asking me for permission to go do what needs to be done." And he goes into the pain that he's feeling that motivates him to go out there and be Punisher. Every time Frank closes his eyes, he hears his son. He sees him. Anytime he stops moving, his son is there. And his voice, what his son is telling him is, go get him. Every single last one of them, go get them. And that's what keeps Frank out there. That's what keeps the Punisher looking out. And he says to Matt, find that again, because that's really what you want. And Matt is still in denial because he doesn't want that to be true. He doesn't want to have to be Daredevil because he wants it so bad. So he leaves and he gets home to his girlfriend, who is the counselor for the Fisks. And later on in the evening, he wakes up, gets out of bed, and he goes out to where his Daredevil equipment is. Simultaneously, Wilson goes down into his basement and he's got a dinner prepared, and it's just him by himself. But he walks by a painting, or a canvas, I should say, and there is what seems to be blood splattered across this canvas. And you can kind of put together that there's someone else down there, either sitting across from him at the table or at least in the room. And then you start to think, oh, his knuckles have been bloodied for the past 3 episodes. And then you think about Adam, the man that Vanessa cheated on Wilson with. Or that's how Wilson sees it. And then you think, oh, okay, Adam's down here. And we hear a voice. We hear a man yelling, "Fisk, please. Fisk, please." And he says to Adam, Wilson does, a quote from the therapy session earlier. He says, "I've been told that forgiveness is the greatest act of love. What do you think about that, Adam?" While Adam ponders that question, because Adam is in a cell in this basement, while Wilson has this amazing meal laid out in front of him, wine and everything, we have Matt on the roof of his apartment, and he grabs a box, and in this box are his batons. And he grabs the batons and he begins doing exercises with them, getting his dexterity back. He is flipping them, curling them around his body, getting a feel for what it's like to handle them again. And then we cut back to Wilson, and Adam is still screaming, "Fisk, let me out." While Matt is on the roof of his apartment practicing with his batons, we hear Adam screaming, "Let me out." Kingpin and Daredevil are screaming, "Let me out," because the city needs both of them. And the way that each of them wants to go about saving the city isn't working. But Daredevil and Kingpin are burning up inside, screaming, "Let me handle this." This was a very thematic, heavy episode. It kind of delves deep into the psychology of the characters and why it is we're about to see some things moving forward. And we've been building up to this episode through the first three. I think I've mentioned each of those things in each of those episodes. You can feel the tension building as each of these themes come across. I am very excited for what comes next. We even got snippets of a new character, Muse, and I'm anxious to see what they do with this character. He's already committing some of his crimes, creating his art. I am excited to see what they have planned for him in the overarching story. Thank you for coming to this screening of Real Swell. I hope you enjoyed. As you head out, I've got 3 things to ask of you. Number 1, pick up your trash. These ushers don't get paid enough. Number 2, make sure you are following so you don't miss the next screening. And number 3, hit that heart for me. I'll see you all next time. Make sure you've got your ticket.